Good evening, this is VK3EKH, VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, with the regular Friday night broadcast coming to you from the studios of VK3CSJ in Narre Warren South. We're broadcasting on prime frequency of 3541 kHz in the 80 metre amateur radio band, and also on my YouTube channel, VK3CSJ. So if you type in VK3CSJ into the Google search engine, look for the live symbol, you'll see a stream on my YouTube channel, which will be some 20-second delay. But there it is. It'll be in reasonable HD and hopefully reasonable sound as well. We're also, like I said, we're also on 80 meters, of course, and we are running the linear tonight. I've tried to take care of a few possible RF issues with this Telstra modem, and if all goes well tonight, the modem will not fall over. Well, hopefully will not fall over. So we'll keep an eye on it. The vMix program I use for everything has a little red indicator telling me the stream is working. If I see that change to orange, I know that I've fallen over. So my apologies if I lose the stream halfway through. But so far it's looking okay. But it's usually falls over when I start. So here it is. Anyway, but we do have the linear going, so hopefully we got a little bit more power to play with tonight for a slightly better signal out. Anyway, very pleasant good evening to everybody here on the 23rd of February, and we're also, I should mention that the VK3RTV repeater appears to be offline, so there's no visions through Melbourne television repeater tonight. I don't know what's going on. There's been no email from the powers that be to say that the repeater has fallen over for whatever reason, so my apologies for no RTV tonight. Hence that YouTube is about the only way for vision. There's a few pictures, a few things to show with the stories that I've got tonight, so it'll be probably a good idea to at least have YouTube running with the sound turned down and just catch up with the pictures 20 seconds later. We also have an email address, VK3EKH@gmail.com, VK3EKH@gmail.com for any signal reports. And there's also a Discord chat room available as well. So I can see Steve, VK3SPX is there, and Richard, VK3VRS. G'day, chaps. The Discord channel, chat room, more than welcome to pop up there. Okay, so far the YouTube stream's hanging in, so I'm fairly happy with that. We'll see how we go in the meantime. All right, the Astronomical Society of Victoria was founded in 1922. It has well over 1,600 members scattered around the place. Membership of the Society is open to anyone with an interest in astronomy. The Society's objectives are to encourage the study and practice of astronomy, to disseminate the knowledge of the science, and to provide greater facilities for the study among its members. Monthly meetings are usually held on the second Wednesday of each month, except in January, the latter being held on a Saturday night. Meetings start at 8 p.m. at the Mauleor Hall, National Herbarium, at Burwood Avenue, Melbourne, near the Melbourne Observatory, which is located not too far from the Shrine of Remembrance. Parking is available Burwood Avenue, Dallas Brooks Drive, and the surrounding streets. Admission is free, and visitors are most welcome. Privileges of membership include the right to borrow books, periodicals and other publications from the Society's extensive library located at Melbourne Observatory, receipt of the ASV's magazine Crux, which contains articles, news, observing notes and the like, and the free provision of the Astronomical Yearbook, which is kind of like a yearly almanac of sorts. Quite a high quality production. Access is available to telescopes on members' nights held regularly at the Melbourne Observatory and after the monthly meetings weather permitting. These instruments include the Society's 300mm equatorial reflector and a 300mm portable reflector. There's also a 200mm refractor managed by the Royal Botanic Gardens, and a photoheliograph are also housed at the observatory and are accessible as well. The Society also has a number of 200mm reflectors available for short period loan, going by the ASV's loan scheme, so members can try before they buy. Members are also encouraged to make use of the telescopes. Members are also encouraged to make use of the Society's country property located near Heathcote, some 90-minute drive north of Melbourne. There are a range of instruments available for members to use. The larger two only with appropriate training, which range from 300mm to 1000mm in aperture. There is also on site an 8.5 metre radio telescope, fully steerable, which members can access with involvement in the radio astronomy section. Members are encouraged to make and use telescopes. Advice and help on both matters are provided willingly to newcomers desiring to do the same. Instrument making is only one of the number of common interest activities catered for within the Society. Other areas of interest that members can participate in include deep sky observing, astrophotography, lunar and planetary observing, auroral, meteor, comet and radio astronomy, computing, cosmology and astrophysics, historical studies and research in astronomy in general. Contact details for various section directors are provided in the yearbook. But if you aren't a member of the ASV, you can go to the ASV's website at www.asv.org.au and all will be made clear there. Contact details for section directors can be found there under the Sections tab in most cases. Further information can be gained by visiting the ASV website, and notifications of events are given in the Crux Extra bulletins, which is an email sent out to members every other week or so to let people know what is happening. Please note that ASV will conform to all the government health directives. ASV events may be required to be cancelled, moved or postponed. If you wish to write a letter to the ASV, if you don't have email or internet, write to the secretary. That's it, just type the secretary, write the secretary, Astronomical Society Victoria, GPO Box 1059, Melbourne, Victoria 3001. My niece is talking to me by my phone. She wants me to do something for her daughter's birthday in regards to an outdoor cinema. So yeah, anyway, that's another story. Alrighty then. Stream is still hanging in. Very good. All this earthing that I've done looks like it might have done some good. I've got an earth stake out the window here, which has been there for a while, but I'm actually using it seriously at the moment. And I've got several things, and I mean several things, all tied to the common earth at the back of the bench here on the wall. And I've got some Cat 7 fully shielded Cat 7 cable running between the modem and the computer. So it seems to be hanging in there. So there's something's come from that. All right, just going to take a little trip down the history line or road for a moment. As most might recall, I'm hoping to get a scope dome observatory installed hopefully very soon. When I say very soon, it could be months away. But we've still got an issue with the deck that this dome is to be built on. That's another story. But one of the things I hope to do with the observatory, of course, and the key thing really is to do astrophotography. And these days, astrophotography is it's an interest or a field that requires still a lot of mucking around to get it right. Often you have to take many images of the same object to ultimately get the image that you're after. So there's a lot of trial and error. But from the trial and error comes the experience to being able to take images of deep sky objects, and through the software that's available these days, and there's some pretty interesting programs there, you can develop some pretty good images of deep sky objects. So anyway, I'm hoping to go down that road eventually, but in the meantime, I'm collecting books and information and stuff on doing such things. Anyway, an interesting... I'm not sure now how I came across this book, to be honest, but it's to do with the early days of doing astrophotography, and all I'll do is I'll read out the introduction. It's of this book, and let's see how this goes. But this was written back. Actually, I'll just keep it that quiet for the moment, and I'll just read this as it was. You're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3EKH. Photography of the nighttime heavens really began after dry plates were perfected in the 1870s. Wet Chaldean plates, which came into use a few years earlier, tended to dry out during time exposures needed in astronomy. But before that, were hopelessly slow for recording any but the very brightest stars and planets using those techniques. Edward Skinner King was the very dawn of the dry plate era. Born in Liverpool, New York, on May 31, 1861, he studied mathematics at Hamilton College under a prominent astronomer of the day, C.H.F. Peters. It must have been Peters who persuaded King, upon graduation, to go to Harvard College Observatory in 1887 and seek work under the director of E.C. Pickering. At the time, Pickering was organising a vast project to exploit the newfound potentials of photography, aimed at supplementing the visual methods that were used to compile the famous Harvard Revisited Photometry Catalogue of 1908. King's work helped to establish the photographic magnitude scale that was in wide use for many years. These photographic stellar magnitudes are now outmodelled, but they paved the way for today's photoelectric photometry. As a student at Harvard in the mid-1960s, I recall being introduced to the mysteries of the fly spanker, a piece of film exposed with a graded scale of star magnitudes for easy and accurate magnitude comparisons. The technique goes right back to E.S. King and plate, and of course he makes reference to a page here in this book, page 136 of the book. But he says it goes back to an image in the book. It is well worth mastering today in case a nova or other variable star should turn up unexpectedly on a celestial photograph. And before I go any further, I'll bring up the picture I have of King, so you get a bit of an idea of who this fellow is. And I'll bring that there and do that. Okay, so those watching YouTube, which is still hanging in there, I've just brought up a picture of Edward Skinner King that we're referring to here. In fact, it's about the only picture. That picture's out of this book that I'm just reading from here. And you type in Edward Skinner King on the internet, and you don't really find many images of the fellow. So I'm very happy that this book happens to have one. Going back to the book, the pinhole photometer of page 142 is another bit of a wisdom buried here. He says, "Will some clever reader try it out, perhaps to determine the brightness of the total eclipsed moon?" It's a reference to the book, in something in the book. We can trace much of this now common practice in astrophotography to King, who collected and summarized a lifetime of experience in this. The only book he ever wrote, Cooled Emulsion Photography, which became popular in the 1960s, is strikingly anticipated in the note about cold winter nights on page 56. And let's not dismiss the candle test for comparing the speeds of various photographic emulsions. The speed ratings printed on film boxes are notoriously unreliable in the time exposure realm of astrophotography, a consequence of the reciprocity effects explained on page 125. These are very bit as vexing to modern astronomers as they were in King's day. The book rightly has little to say about the best exposure time for a given object. No doubt King anticipated that further gains in emulsion speed lay just around the corner. Indeed, his advice on page 114, based on the total eclipse of 1925, would overexpose a modern emulsion, or exposure index of 100, by about 5 stops. Emulsions and cameras have evolved greatly in 60 years. Films and plates are now routinely supplied for today's astrophotographer need not whip up a batch of caramel on the kitchen stove. It seems that's a method that was once used. When Kings refers to actinic light, he's talking about the deep blue wavelengths to which most emulsions exclusively respond in this day. A photographically corrected lens, as he uses the term, is one designed for sharpest images in blue end of the spectrum. Today, we take a panchromatic and color emulsions partly much for granted. If King had foreseen today's anti-reflection and other special coatings, he would not have condemned lenses so loudly for absorbing 50% of the incoming light, nor would he have bothered to give directions for silvering a mirror. But professional astronomers still use glass photographic plates for most of their critical applications, and they'll gain no better insight into the foibles of the plate than from the book. Sheet films now have much better dimensional and chemical stability than in 1920s, and they are also quite suitable for many astronomical applications. The handy suggestions for focusing and squaring on a large camera lens are among the book's special treats. Sooner or later, many amateur astrophotographers seeking more detail and dramatic celestial images abandon the snapshot camera in favour of larger formats. Perhaps they have acquired some monstrous war surplus aerial lens. A few have even grounded and polished their own Cook triplets. Such huge lenses cannot be made to bring all the colours of the light to the same sharp focus, even today, and so the tinkerer will feel very much at home with the cut and try method of King for achieving focus when the light is either too dim or of the wrong colour to be perceived well by the human eye. If there's anything in which E.S. King's truly had the last word, it is the subject of polar alignment and clock drive rates. This book explains the paradox of why a telescope should not be driven precisely at the sidereal rate, nor its polar axis set quite parallel to that of the Earth. These were matters to which King looked deeply into his early years. After all, expected and got fairly round star images in hour-long unguided exposures with the Harvard's 11-inch Draper refractor. On pages 31 to 33 in this book, we find King's famous photographic method of correcting the aim of a telescope's polar axis, and in Appendix B and the formulas of which, if we want, refraction and flexure may be fully compensated in a telescope that has drive motors on both axes. But he says here, be careful. Equation 3 and 4 on page 160, as in 160, unlike equations 1 and 2, give rates of change in the units of wavelength per radian instead of per hour. In the August 1975 issue of Sky and Telescope magazine, page 127, the author here says, I showed how the equations could be applied to a modern crystal-controlled electronic drive circuit. The theoretical astronomer Cecilia H. Payne, better known by her married name Payne-Gaposchkin, was King's associate right up to his death on September 10, 1931. She recalled how enthusiastic students would bring him their ideas of improving some aspect of photographic photometry. Invariably, he would say with a humorous twinkle, I tried that 10 years ago. It won't work. Each skeptical novice would often later confirm the fact privately. Payne-Gaposchkin also recalled the professor's passion for old books. Sometimes he'd bring one of his treasures around to a much younger person to be admired. At such times he would shed his shy manner to become a delightful raconteur, ranging widely over the departments of human interest. And here then is King's own book, and it is a treasure too. And that was published in February 1, 1988 by Roger Sinnott, Sky Publishing Corporation. The book itself by E.S. King was first published in 1931, and I've been trying to find the original copy, an original copy of the 1931 publication. Very hard to come by. What is available are republished versions of the book, and it's called A Manual of Celestial Photography. A Manual of Celestial Photography. Where's my camera? There. So let me switch cameras. Oops, we don't need the insert anymore. So yes, I'm just holding that up to YouTube camera. A Manual of Celestial Photography. Now it's not very thick, but it's a good historic an account of the early astrophotography. It's on the back cover. It says, "This classic This classic of practical astrophotography has been unavailable for 3 decades. In it, a distinguished Harvard astronomer has distilled his lifetime of experience in taking pictures of the night sky. While films have changed and new instrumentation has been introduced, King's exposition of the fundamentals has never been equalled. A new introduction by Roger W. Sinnott of Sky Telescope points out the many ways this book can serve the modern astrophotographer. And of course, this is published, this was a reprint back in 1988. And the modern astrophotographer, how far we have come since these days is what I'm trying to allude to. And it's all based on computer technologies, the software, and most of it's free. In some cases, the 2 or 3 key programs that astrophotographers are using these days is free to get a hold of. Anyway, so as a part of my library of books, I thought obtaining this copy of this, which I think came off eBay, was the thing to do for my little collection. One of my in my library. Actually 3 shelves. Three shelves are dedicated to all my interests in radio astronomy, and a lot of that's a lot of old, very old historic books that I just went crazy to buy, and so I've got a very extensive radio astronomy library. But now it's turning towards astrophotography. You're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel. The stream is still hanging in there, I'm very pleased to say. And we're only on 3541 tonight and YouTube. G'day Mitch, VK3ZT has joined in. There's Robert's there as well. G'day Robert, well that's not Robert that I know. Graham 3GRK is there from Bendigo, and the VCL factor is there. G'day Wayne. Andrew Mr. KIS is there, and Paul as well. Thanks guys for your reports there. I've got a little laptop sitting right next to me there, so I made sure that I was prelude to all that. What time is it? It's 10:27 already. Okay. All right, let's move along to just a few articles that I've got tonight to skim through. Of course, the first thing is to do with the recent landing on the moon initiative. Intuitive Machines lands on moon in nail-biting descent of private Odysseus lander, a first for US since 1972, published 10 hours ago. And I've got a video which I'll run in the background while I'm talking here, reading this article out. The video goes for an hour, but it's just for background sake while I'm chatting away. Yeah, I think I'm over that. Over the audio's over the top of that. All right, so what you're seeing on the screen there is basically just the control room, and they're all biting their nails at this point in time, waiting for this thing to hopefully land successfully. So that's just running in the background while I go through this article. Odysseus is the first private spacecraft ever to land softly on Earth's nearest neighbour. After a nail-biting descent and a tense silence from the lunar surface, the United States is back on the moon. Odysseus is a robotic lander built by Houston-based company Intuitive Machines, touched down near the lunar South Pole this evening, February 22. It was a landmark moment for space exploration. No private spacecraft had ever soft landed on the moon before, and an American vehicle hadn't hit the grey dirt softly since NASA's crewed Apollo 17 lander did so in December 1972. What a triumph! Odysseus has taken the moon. NASA Administrator Bill Nielsen said in a video message at the agency aired just after the confirmation of the successful touchdown. This feat is a giant leap forward for all humanity, he said, and he did. Returning to the moon. The moon was a frequent target for the American spacecraft during the 60s and early 70s. This push didn't come from mere scientific curiosity. Landing astronauts on Earth's nearest neighbour was viewed as a national security imperative, a way to demonstrate technological superiority over the nation's Cold War rival, the Soviet Union. The US famously put 12 astronauts on the lunar surface over the course of 6 Apollo missions from 1969 to 72. With the moon race thus definitively won, NASA was directed to focus on other goals for its human spaceflight program, chiefly the development of operation of the Space Shuttle program. The US launched a number of robotic moon probes after the Apollo era. NASA's sharp-eyed Mark's calling Richard. The US launched a number of robotic moon probes after the Apollo's era. NASA's sharp-eyed lunar reconnaissance orbiter has been circling the moon since 2009, for example. But some frustrating fits and starts notwithstanding, getting back to the surface was not a priority until recently. In December 2017, when the then President Donald Trump ordered NASA to return astronauts to the moon in a relatively near future, this directive gave rise to a broad and ambitious program called Artemis, which aims to establish a long-term sustainable human presence on and around the moon by the end of the 2020s, and to use the knowledge gained in doing so to help get astronauts to Mars by the late 2030s or early 2040s. NASA plans to set up one or more Artemis bases on the moon's southern polar region, which is thought to harbour lots of water ice. Before sending astronauts there, however, the agency wants to collect more data about its little explored area to help determine, for example, just how much water it contains and how easy this crucial resource it is to access. So NASA established another program called CLPS, Commercial Lunar Payload Services, which books rides for agency science instruments on robotic moon landers built by American companies. The goal here is for us to investigate the moon in preparation for Artemis, and really to do business differently for NASA. Sue Lederer, CLPS project scientist at Johnson Space Center in Houston, said during a press conference on February 12, "One of our main goals is to make sure that we develop a lunar economy." And that's where Initiative Machines comes in. In 2019, CLPS selected Initiative Machines to deliver a batch of NASA science instruments to the lunar surface using the company's Nova C lander, which is about the size of a British telephone booth. After some modifications, the task order turned out to be worth $118 million. NASA officials said recently it covered the transport of 6 agency experiments and technology demonstrations on the Initiative Machines' first lunar mission, which the company calls IM-1. The mission features a Nova C vehicle named Odysseus after the famous voyaging hero in the Greek mythology. The NASA instruments, which cost the agency an additional $11 million to develop, are designed to conduct a variety of investigations. For instance, one of them called NDL, Navigation Doppler LiDAR, for precise velocity and range sensing, used LiDAR, light detection and ranging technology, to collect data during a descent and landing. NDL turned out to be vital to today's touchdown, as you'll see in the video below, which is on YouTube. Another instrument was designed to study how the spacecraft's engine's exhaust interacts with lunar dirt and rock. Yet another will demonstrate autonomous positioning tech, which could eventually become part of a broad GPS-like navigation system on the ground on and around the moon. Initiative Machines also put 6 commercial payloads on Odysseus for IM-1. One of them comes from the Columbia Sportswear, which wanted to test its Omni Heat Infinity insulative material in deep space. Another is a set of sculptures by the artist Jeff Koons, and there's even a secure lunar repository that aims to help preserve humanity's storehouse of accumulated knowledge. Also flying on Odysseus was EagleCam, a camera system built by students at the Riedel Aeronautical University. EagleCam was designed to deploy from Odysseus around 100 feet, 30 meters above the lunar surface, and snap photos of the lander's epic touchdown from below. And you can learn more about all 12 of the IM-1 payloads in a link they provide in this article. So those 12 payloads lifted off on February 15 when a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket sent Odysseus towards the moon. The lander deep space trek was short and relatively smooth through though things got a bit sporty toward the end. Odysseus arrived in lunar orbit yesterday, February 21, as planned, and in the home stretch of its touchdown try today. However, the lander's handlers discovered that Odysseus' laser rangefinders, which allow it to determine its altitude and horizontal velocity, weren't working properly. So the team pressed NASA's experimental NDL payload into service for this vital function, pushing the landing try back by 2 hours to put the new plan into action. This last-minute workaround, which required the team to design a software patch on the ground and beam it up to Odysseus, did the trick. At 6:11 p.m. today, Odysseus fired up its main engine for a crucial 11-minute burn that slowed the craft's descent toward the lunar surface. Then, at 6:23 p.m., Odysseus touched down softly near the rim of the crater Malapert A, about 300 kilometers from the lunar south pole. Success wasn't immediately apparent, however. It took about 15 tense minutes for the IM-1 team to latch onto Odysseus' signal. We can confirm without a doubt our experiment is on the surface of the moon and we are transmitting. Mission Director Tim Crane said that a milestone moment. Odysseus has found his new home. If all goes according to plan, the lander and its payload will now operate for about 7 Earth days on the lunar surface. IM-1 will end when the sun goes down at Malapert A, as Odysseus was not designed to survive the bitter cold of the lunar night. It takes the moon more than 27 Earth days to rotate once on its axis. To each lunar night lasts roughly 2 weeks. M1 is part of a newly energized march to the moon. For example, Pittsburgh company Astronomical launched its Peregrine lunar lander last month on the first flight of United Launch Alliance's Vulcan Centaur rocket. But the Peregrine, which also carried NASA's payloads via the CLPS program, suffered a crippling fuel leak just after deploying from the rocket's upper stage. The problem prevented the Peregrine from making it to the moon, and the Astrobotic ultimately steered it to control demise in Earth's atmosphere on Jan 18. And there's the US with its Artemis program, of course, but China also aims to put astronauts on the moon by 2030 and is working with Russia and several other nations to develop a lunar outpost later in the decade as well. India, meanwhile, has said it wants to put boots down on Earth's natural satellite. in 2040 or thereabouts. Some politicians have characterized this planned activity as a new moon race, a competition between the US and China for the right to establish precedents and norms of behavior in the high frontier. Exploration advocates, however, tend to see the rosier side, stressing the coming exploitation of the lunar resources that could help humanity extend its footprint out into the solar system for the first time. Either way, the moon is coming into sharper focus for nations and businesses around the world, and it's going to get busier and busier up there. There it is, and the video still runs. All very good. Anyway, so there it is, a successful landing on the moon, and although even though it's only just going to go for 7 days, we'll keep track of what comes from it. You're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3 EKH, with the regular Friday night cast missions coming from VK3 CSJ. All right, next thing I had here to mention. SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket ties 19 flight record with launch from California. There's a picture of a launch here. There it is. This is the Falcon rocket taking off in still image. SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket carrying 22 Starlink satellites lifts off from Space Launch Complex 4 at the Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. SpaceX tied its rocket reuse record on Thursday night. A Falcon 9 rocket carrying 22 SpaceX Starlink broadband satellites lifted off from the Vandenberg Space Station. It was the 19th mission for this Falcon 9's first stage, according to SpaceX mission description. And so I would suspect that if you haven't seen the Starlink satellites in a train going across the sky, here's your opportunity to look out for this new 22 Starlink satellites. You can probably use heavensabove.com to see where they will be possibly visible in your night sky. The Falcon 9's first stage came back to Earth, and I've got a picture of that too. It's amazing technology how they've got these rockets returning and landing upright. It's I just find it really is impressive how they've got that return technology down pat now. They can land these booster rockets even on a floating barge at sea. They'll still land upright. It really is quite stunning stuff. The ship will haul the booster back to terra firma for inspection, refurbishment, and quite literally yet another flight. The Falcon 9's upper stage was scheduled to deploy the 22 Starlink satellites into low Earth orbit about 62 minutes after liftoff. So they're up there already deployed. Starlink provides internet service to customers around the world. The low Earth orbit mega constellation currently consists of more than 5,400 operational spacecraft, but that number is increasing all the time, of course. Tonight's launch will be the 17th of the 2004 already for SpaceX. Flight 16 lofted an Indonesian telecom satellite on Tuesday as well. So there it is for SpaceX. They're still sticking satellites into orbit. Dear, I'm not totally in favour of all that, but that's another story. Alrighty, next article. Let's move along here. Okay, and we have a picture here from this article. That's an email. Go back. Dust on the moon. Sorry, dust on Mars. That's where we're going. Yes. Engineers certainly could. Sorry, what's the title of this article? Why doesn't NASA build a mechanism to clean the solar panels on its Mars rovers? Well, engineers certainly could design such a system, but adding it would require sacrificing space or weight meant for science. Inevitably, Mars rovers or landers get covered with dust and the solar panels no longer function, ending the mission. Why doesn't NASA build in a mechanism to clean the solar panels, asks Mike Honeycutt in Woolridge, Illinois. Reply is, this is a great question, and to me at least the answer is not all that obvious. It's not that NASA engineers can't design a brush or a wiper or an air blasting system to clean dust off solar panels or other Mars rover or lander parts. That kind of engineering isn't rocket science. The issue really is about the constraints on deep space missions. Many engineers refer to these constraints as the resource box. That is, all missions are constrained to fit into a metaphorical box defined by researchers like mass, physical dimensions, power, schedule, data, volume, and cost. The size of the box depends on many factors, like which rocket will launch the mission and what budget is available to the team. And while the resources can be moved around and traded inside the box, the whole system can't go out of the box. So, for example, if a team wants to add a dust wiper blade to a rover solar panel, the engineers will say, sure, we can do that, but what do you want to trade to accommodate the mass, volume, power needs, and the cost of the wiper system? Will the team be okay, for example, trading a backup radio transmitter for a wiper system or dropping one of the science instruments for it? In my experience, we've decided not to make such trades because we felt confident that the rovers would survive their required minimum lifetime even with dusty solar panels. And, while debatable to most of us involved, that appears to have been an acceptable trade for the missions like Spirit, Opportunity, Insight, and others. We often hear about people or groups being praised for thinking outside the box, but in deep space mission systems engineering, the key is actually to try and maximize the science while staying inside the resource box. So there's the reasons why we don't put wipers on our solar panels for our Martian rovers. You're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel. Time is, 13 minutes to. What causes sunspots, you might often wonder. And I've got a picture there as well for that. Let's see. What causes sunspots? Do they form on the surface or the sun or well up from below? Asks Gil Roscoe from California. Sunspots are dark regions on the sun that are about the size of Earth. They are caused by strong magnetic fields that merge through the photosphere or surface of the sun. The spots themselves don't exactly well up from below, but are a visual effect caused when heat is prevented from doing so. Our star is so hot that it undergoes convection in the outer third of its interior, causing the surface to boil like a pot of hot water, seen as tiny bubbles in the visible light image on the left of the picture you're seeing on the screen, the yellow image. At these temperatures, the matter is converted to plasma. The matter is converted to a plasma, an ionized gas in which the electrons and protons are free to move separately. Magnetic fields within the sun's convective interior are transported by plasma flows that stretch and amplify the field's strength. When they grow stronger, these magnetic fields become buoyant and rise up, merging through the photosphere. The effect is like pulling on a bundle of ropes with weights on both ends. The field lines remain anchored to the surface in two places, creating a loop. The places where they merge from the surface are called foot points. The field that comes out of the surface at one foot point has a positive magnetic polarity, and the field that goes back in at the other footprint has a negative polarity, shown in the middle image with the positive negative field represented by white and black. The magnetic field lines above the surface are filled with plasma and are heated in the corona, forming beautiful glowing ultraviolet arches known as coronal loops, shown in the extreme ultraviolet image on the right. These stunning arches are invisible in the white light spectrum that we see with our eyes, generally. But we do see the footprints at the arches, where the magnetic field merges through the photosphere. And these are the sunspots. They appear dark relative to the surrounding plasma on the solar surface, as seen in the visible light image on the left, because they are cooler. This is because the intense magnetism in the footprints slows convection, preventing heat from welling up from below. Okay, I've always wanted to know why they were dark. Anyway, there it is. It's Ask Astro, courtesy of astronomy.com. Dearie me. And you're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3EKH, with the regular Friday night broadcast. Okay, this is another one. And there's a little artist's impression here too I can show. Where was that gone? Where's that gone? There's a little artist's impression here, which no, it didn't bring across. No, it doesn't matter. All right. Private Vada space capsule returns to Earth with space-grown antiviral drug aboard, published a day ago. The Vada Space Industries W1 capsule landed in Utah Wednesday, Feb 21, after nearly 8 months in orbit. What was it doing? California's startup first in space manufacturing effort is in the books. The capsule from Vada Space Industries W1 mission landed in northern Utah this afternoon, February 21, bringing down to Earth crystals of antiviral drug that were grown in orbit. The success makes Vada just the third company to recover an intact spacecraft from orbit. The other two are aerospace giants SpaceX with its Dragon vehicles and Boeing with its Starliner capsule. Vada plans to be a major player in off-Earth manufacturing, a production option that offers some intriguing advantages according to the company. Processing materials in microgravity or near weightlessness conditions found in space offers a unique environment not available through terrestrial processing, Vada website states. These benefits primarily stem from the lack of convection and sedimentation forces, as well as the ability to form more perfect structures due to the absence of gravitational stresses. Private companies have returned space-made products to Earth before. For example, follow California's company Made in Space, which was later acquired by Redwire, brought home their high-value optical fiber Z-band multiple times, but Made in Space did its manufacturing aboard the International Space Station and hauled the Z-band, ZBLAN, down in SpaceX Dragon capsules. Vada wants to make the process more efficient and cost-effective with the small, uncrewed capsules, which serve as both mini factories and return vehicles. The W1 test mission gave the company its first chance to strut its stuff. Vada's 3-foot-wide conical capsule integrated into a Rocket Lab Proton spacecraft, which provided power, propulsion, navigation, and other services, lifted off on June 2023 on SpaceX's Transporter 8 rideshare mission. The W1 capsule contained the materials necessary to grow crystals of ritonavir, an antiviral drug used to treat HIV and hepatitis C. This cargo was chosen adversely as paraceuticals are one of the highest value or high value products that could potentially help spark and nurture the off-Earth manufacturing industry. Just a week after Transporter 8's liftoff, VADA announced that its crystal growing experiment had worked. And over the last day, for the first time ever, orbital drug processing happened outside the government-run space station. Our crystallization of ritonavir appears to have been nominal. This is our first step in commercializing microgravity and building an industrial park in low Earth orbit. Goodness gracious me. All right. And this next one. James Webb Space Telescope's new look at supernova 1987A reveals a neutron star. The nearest recent exploding star in the cosmos is offering a refined look at its life ending. And we've got a picture here of that. There it is. There it is. And why not bring up my little insert? No, I won't do that. It blocks it. Courtesy of astronomy.com. In 1987, astronomers had an incredible front row seat to a cosmic event that maybe isn't rare, but rarely happens near us. Just 168,000 light years away, on February 23rd of that year, a star in the Large Magellanic Cloud, the largest satellite galaxy of the Milky Way, exploded. This happened when the star's core collapsed into a dense object and expelled the outer gas layers, giving astronomers an iconic show. As the closest supernova that had happened in our lifetimes, supernova 1987A has been studied, scrutinized, and dissected by some of the largest observatories, giving us a chance to do forensics on a dead star from the moment of demise to its 37-year aftermath. And now, thanks to the James Webb Space Telescope, we finally know what happened to the core. New research published in Science describes how astronomers used the infrared capabilities of the telescope to peer behind the dust cloud that remains where the star once was. There they found a neutron star, a dense ball of matter about the size of a city, but containing a mass of 1 to 2 times that of our Sun. The observations are also much better than anything which has been done before, especially in this part of the spectrum, but the details we see with this image are so much better than you can do even with the Hubble telescope. When stars go supernova, one of two outcomes happens. The core either becomes a neutron star or it collapses into a black hole. The star's fate depends on its mass as well as the mass of the core. A core above about 2.2 times of the Sun's mass is destined to become a black hole, while a star below the threshold becomes a neutron star. Some neutron stars rotate in such a way that a beam of light is pointed at Earth, visible in radio frequencies. But Franson says that no indication right now that SN 1987A is a pulsar. The star that formed SN 1987A had been observed before, so we had a relative idea of its size, somewhere between 15 and 20 times the mass of the Sun. This is big, but it's not the biggest a star can get. So models erred on the side of predicting a neutron star. But while there were a few hints along the way that this was likely to be the case, the James Webb Space Telescope's observations managed to image the neutron star itself, and this resulted after observations published last year showed that the shape of the ejector coming out from the core. James Webb Space Telescope will be able to track the star's evolution over time, a feat it has already been working on. Franson alludes to observations made last autumn that have not been published, which saw the density of material ejected by the supernova thin out a little. As this takes place, the neutron star will become easier to study. The intervening material in the centre is getting thinner and thinner, so we see the centre better and better. So that's a very strong reason for continuing the observations, Franson says. The telescope on board spectrometers were also used on the area around the neutron star to learn more about the star's current composition. Although the data are new and have not been fully analysed, a cursory glance reveals that the details and spectrum are much better than we had with the first set of observations. So that gives us completely new ways of looking at it. All these observations from the James Webb Space Telescope, as well as observations from other observatories, help us complete the picture of what happened 37 years ago. But future observations will help build a timeline of what happens in a star system for the first few decades after it explodes, and it will help astronomers know what to look for the next time a nearby supernova explodes. So it's a rather amazing picture, that. Really is quite stunning imagery. Okay. On that note, let's go to spaceweather.com to finish off. The solar wind is currently at a speed of 321.5 kilometers a second at a density of 5.15 protons per cubic centimeter. The current disk of the sun looks like this, which you'll see 20 seconds from now on YouTube, which is still hanging in there. So yes, what you're seeing on YouTube right now is the current disk of the sun with a fairly decent looking sunspot up there in the top left-hand corner, I must admit. So the sunspot number is currently 46, and the radio sun is currently sitting at 170 solar flux units. 170 solar flux units measured at a wavelength of 10.7 centimeters. The auroral glow over Antarctica is looking a bit like this right now. This was taken about half an hour ago. There it is. It's a bit less than that right now, actually. So not much in the way of auroral activity, but there is still an auroral ring over Antarctica peaking towards Tasmania and New Zealand. And where are we heading to now? Planetary K index, for those interested in the KP index. Currently, the KP index is equal to 6.7, which is quiet. The 24-hour max KP index is going to be 1.67. Which is also considered quiet. There is another image here. Oops, that's the wrong button. vMix. Come here, vMix. There it is. Bring that up. And what we have got here, spaceweather.com indicates that there is a geomagnetic storm to watch out for. It's a G1, minor G1 class geomagnetic storms are possible on February 25. When a CME is expected to graze Earth's magnetic field. The CME was not produced by this week's X-flares. Instead, it was hurled into space by an erupting filament of magnetism. Right. And the image on the screen right now is the ultraviolet afterglow of yesterday's X6.3 class solar flare. 3 X-class flares giant sunspot AR3590, which you saw on the disk of the sun before, is living up to its hype. In only 23 hours, spanning February 21 to 22, the active region unleashed 3 powerful X-class solar flares, X1.8, X1.7 and X6.3. The X6.3 flare is the strongest of cycle 25, solar cycle 25 so far, and the most powerful flare since the great solar storms of September 2017. Extreme ultraviolet radiation from each flare ionized the top of Earth's atmosphere, causing shortwave radio blackouts over Hawaii and Australia on the 22nd. It says that Hawaii, Hawaii, late February 22nd, mariners and ham radio operators in those areas may have noticed loss of signal at all frequencies below 30 megahertz. You might think that all these flares would have hurled out at least one CME toward Earth. In fact, the number is 0. SOHO coronagraphs have not detected any CMEs merging from the blast zone, and sometimes this happens. Flares can occur without CMEs, and CMEs can occur without flares. Okay, I think that's about it in a nutshell. Just seeing what else is there. There is a coronal hole visible on the disk of the sun right now, and I did save that image as well. So I'll bring that up for those watching YouTube. There it is. That's the current coronal hole on the surface of the sun there. Not sure the reason for that, but there it is. So having said that and shown that, asteroids. As of February 23, 2024, there were potentially 2,349 hazardous asteroids, but none were on a collision course with Earth. All right, that's space weather in a nutshell. So we shall call it quits for this evening at 11:07, and we'll leave it there. So thanks to Paul, Andrew, Wayne and Stephen for your emails. I shall read those in detail in a moment. Thanks to Cassiopeia, g'day Nebs, and Kim, VK5FUSE is there on Discord. Mitch, VK3ZT, Robert, I'm not sure if you've got a call sign there, Rob, but anyway, thanks for popping up on Discord. And the laptop's just a little bit out of the range of my glasses, but I think that's about it. Yeah, all right, I won't go fiddling with that, I'll lose it all. Anyway, all right, let's go across to the radio frequency, 3541 kilohertz, and see if we can get any stations up on frequency wishing to quickly check in for tonight's broadcast. Just getting a piece of paper and a pen here ready. Yep, that's good. So as I turn the chair towards the west, and yeah, all right. So this is VK3EKH, VK3EKH, listening on 3541 kilohertz for stations wishing to check in.
VK3JR. VK3 Delta X-ray. VK3 COD.
Okay, there was a few stations that doubled then. VK3JR, VK3BDA, VK3DX, VK3GOD. Who were the other stations?
VK3SPX. Yeah, VK3 Bravo Sugar Fox.
Alright, VK3SPX, VK3VIN, VK3BSF, just running out of my the bottom of the envelope here. Writing on the back of an envelope. Any other stations? Okay, to you there, Frank. VK3JR, VK3EKH. Howdy doody.
say, Clint, I actually just arrived home and I missed the broadcast, but I thought I'd join it and I just, thank you for having done it anyway. And a special hello to everyone, and especially. And that's about all I have to say, really. Just looking forward to next week. VK3, there'll be missions. VK3, EKH, VK2JR.
Yeah, good on you, Frank. VK3JR, VK3 EKH, excellent stuff. All right, we'll turn on the 160 meter receivers and listen out. Not a problem. Thanks, Frank. Good signal from you, mate. And thanks for calling in. Not a problem at all. Graham, VK3BDA, the official call sign there of the Bendigo District Astronomical Society. I think that's it. With the latest from Bendigo. Take it away, Graham.
Yeah, thanks, Clint. VK3 EKH. Sorry, I had a mental break there. VK3 EKH, VK3 video. Yeah, the call sign of the Bendigo section of the ASB. Thanks very much for the broadcast, Clint. Really interesting and exciting about the recent landing on the moon. So I'm interested to see what comes of that. And it certainly is amazing in regards to the fact that they can reland that rocket technology as well. That is very, very impressive. Who would have thought that they could do that and reuse those big rockets? But nothing much to report this end. I watched your YouTube broadcast, and it was great to see all the pictures and video, etc. And I'll come up to the radio room to jump onto the net. And great to hear Robert, VK3GOD. You've got God listening this evening, Clint, so that's good. And the SPX and everyone else. With that, I'm also heading down to the Wyndham Mountain Radio Club Amfest on Sunday. I'm not sure where you're heading to that, Clint, but a few of us from the Bendigo Club are heading down to the Wyndham Mountain Radio Club Amfest, so that should be something interesting. Thanks once again for the broadcast there, Clint. 73 to all VK3 EKH, VK3 BDO Bendigo.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. VK3BDA, VK3 EKH. No, I don't think I'll be going to that. In fact, I didn't even know there was anything happening. So I don't see myself going out to that. No. But have a good time, and I think the weather should be pretty good. In fact, I think Sunday's going to be up to 29 degrees, so it should be nice for a bit of a drive and getting around. But yeah, good to hear you, Graham. It's been a few weeks since we've heard you. I think this is the fifth week that we've been back on air. So there it is. We're operating now down into a new shack, if you can call it a new shack. We've come downstairs, and the place is still a big mess. It's nowhere near being finished at this stage, but we've had a few issues with RF getting into the modem and all sorts of things, so it's been causing us grief. But today it's been behaving very well. Anyway, thanks, Graham. Greg, VK3 Delta X-Ray, VK3 EKH.
Broadcast there, Clint. All we see, your signal is belting through into audible. You're at least 20 over. Conditions are not too bad. Earlier on it was quite noisy on a bottle shop net, but things have settled down. Anyway, good evening everybody, and a very interesting broadcast, as it is always every week there, Clint, when you're doing it. That's the new shack, and it takes time to get these things sorted out, mate. I'm always moving things around and losing things and misplacing things. I hope you don't have that trouble, mate. Anyway, I'm sitting well, and it's a bit cooler down here in Waterville than what it was the last couple of days. We're also heading to the Rosley Hamfest, or the Werribee Hamfest at Rosley. So we're heading off there Sunday. Quite a few of us from the Wampling shed, and I think there's 2 car loads, so looking to catch up with everyone. Okay, back to you there, Clint. Thanks for the net and the broadcast, I should say. VK3 EKH. VK3 Delta X-ray, Greg in Warrnambool.
Yeah, good on you, Greg. VK3 Delta X-ray, VK3 EKH. Good signal from you tonight. Good 20 over 9. So certainly getting you without any issues at all. And yeah, I might. Well, no, I don't think I'll be heading out, but I'll check some of the information on this this Hamfest thing that's going on, and see whether perhaps I might be able to go. But I don't know. I've got things to do here, so I don't really get moving until early to mid-afternoon before I start doing stuff. So just under the bench here where my knees are bumping into equipment on the floor that needs to go into this rack. If you're watching YouTube, you can see this rack behind me here. I've got stuff to laden in that rack. It's all sitting under the bench here, bumping. My knees keep bumping onto it. So I've got to do that. I must do that and get that all sorted out, so I can't go driving around the place. Have a good time, Greg. Robert, now I think you asked about a link for Discord. And I can see that Richards has supplied you a link. Thank you, Richard, for doing that. And I think you are the Robert that I'm seeing on Discord, because I can't see your call sign. So, but you are. I can see that's new. So I suspect that's Robert. The Robert that I'm seeing on Discord is yourself. So there it is. VK3GOD, VK3EKH.
Radio Astronomy section meeting, which was interesting. Looking forward to becoming more involved in that. I have added an auto guider to my telescope, which I needed to get out on time. And I'm putting a new antenna up for dedicated lifter, which is running diagonally across my back garden. So a few projects on at the moment. Broadcast was well heard. 5 over 9 plus 30. Excellent reception. VK3 EK8, VK3 EOD.
Good on you, Robert. VK3GOD, VK3EKH returning. Excellent that you sat in on the recent radio astronomy meeting. That's excellent. I'm glad that you did that. I haven't been involved with the radio astronomy section for probably the best part of a year now. Which annoys me to some degree that I've taken such a back seat to the section, but I guess there's reasons for that. But I used to be the section director for radio astronomy for 12 years, and introduced a lot of things to the dark sky site up there. Involved with the shipping container being dropped off and getting that all up and running, and of course ultimately organising the 8.5 metre dish up there. So I've done a lot for up there, and I really should still have a finger in the works, but I've elected to take a back seat these days. So it's moving along very well. The current section director is doing very, very well in moving the section along, and it's all in his hands now. So I'm very pleased with the way it's moving along. But as I said before, I'm now developing an interest more into the optical side of it, which I've never had before. So I've got some telescopes that I really want to start exploiting and using, and sticking cameras on them and doing all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I'll probably come back to doing radio astronomy in the near future. We'll see. But yeah, good on you, Robert. I'm glad that you're making use of the society, and it's excellent stuff indeed. Ian, VK3VIN, have a say, mate. VK3EKH.
Satellites up there and the competition on the moon. Let's hope we don't have any wars up there. That would be a bit catastrophic, wouldn't it? But when China and other nations are involved, competitiveness, even greed for control could be an issue. Yeah, that was the main thing, and all the solar flares that have been happening. Certainly some big ones, taking signals right out on occasion. But interestingly, more than 50% of the spot still going, as you remember. So another good broadcast, well presented, and good audio quality. Thank you. VK3EKH, VK3VIN.
Yeah, no worries, Ian. VK3VIN, VK3EKH, holding his puss. Or was. While you're chatting, my long hair cat decided to come up and start asking to be picked up. So he was on camera there for a moment. Actually, yes, you must have come in. Now he's popped up on the bench behind me, and hopefully he will not knock me off frequency. Cheeky puss. Yes, I'm running the linear tonight, Ian. It's for about 300 watts at the moment, and on the meter here, Kenwood meter. This cat's now sitting on the Pro 3. Harlow, 1 2 1 2. Where's that coming from? 1 2 1 2 1 2. I'm hearing myself now. Harlow 1 2 3 4 5. I can hear myself coming through somewhere. God, I didn't do anything. Kiska, what are you doing? Anyway, that's just on 400 watts when I do that. So the linear is definitely on, and I can hear myself coming through. Oh, it's the headphones. Yeah, that's it. That's all. I can hear myself coming through the headphones, so I turn that down. That's better now. I'm not sure how that suddenly came good. I'm back to normal powers, and the modem is not falling over. I am really impressed that the adequate earthing that I've placed here on everything, and the Cat 7 shielded cable that I'm running between the modem. There's about 5 meters of that. Seems to have helped with the interference factor. So there it is. Thanks, Ian. Good on you, mate. Thanks for checking in. Peter, VK3BSF, local lad, VK3EKH.
Thanks, Clint. VK3BSF returning. I missed the broadcast, unfortunately. I was watching a great series on Apple TV, Masters of the Air. If you've got Apple TV, you've got to watch it. It's all about the 100th bomber group during the War of Britain. Fantastic, fantastic video. I'm up to about series 6. It's really good. I'm going to the Hamfest. I was going to go tomorrow. I said to my grandson, I've got to get up early. Got to go to the Hamfest tomorrow. And he said, what Hamfest? He looked it up and he says, you donkey, it's on Sunday. It's not on Saturday. So I would have headed out there tomorrow and nobody would have been there. Old age, I guess. I see you relocated the camera to forward-looking Clint instead of sideways. And there's Puss. Yeah, Puss. He's carrying a bit of weight for age, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I'm a mid-afternoon guy as well, so I don't know about getting up early, go to the Hamfest. Right. I went to the Ballarat one, it was good fun, a lot of guys there, about 200 people, so I think they're going to have a few more at Werribee. Well, it's not Werribee, it's some other place, I can't think of the name, but they're holding it at. Bad luck I missed out on the broadcast, but gosh, I was reading about all the satellite junk that's in the atmosphere. There is about 30,000 pieces of junk there. They're planning to put up hundreds more satellites. I think they're reaching a point of no return soon. Well, we probably won't get too much bloody sunlight. Okay then, Clint, and dome progress. Update me on the dome progress. And what's that radio you got there? Looks like a fairly nice one. Clint, go ahead.
Oh, which one? The one that the cat's sitting on, or the one that's just over on my was it left shoulder? that silver. So I think you're probably talking about the one that's got the screen just there, yeah. Yeah, Kiska, move your tail out of the way. Go on, move your tail. That's it. No, she doesn't. Kiss. Go on, move your tail. She's going to swipe me in a minute. Anyway, the radio that I'm using right now here is the Pro 3, ICOM 756 Pro 3. But the wireless underneath this big one here, that's the 9000D FTDX. It's called an FTDX 9000D. Incorporates dual receivers, which can be operated at the same time. And it's a very fancy wireless. And I have to say that it's the heaviest out of all the radios or transceivers that I've ever had. It's the heaviest one that I've ever picked up and moved around. And it's also very big. It's huge, and yeah, it's what's the term? It's a benchmark anyway radio for HF use, up to 6 meters, 200 watts, 200 watt output PA. Yeah, and I used to use that on this session at one stage. But I was using a different microphone other than this PR40 that I'm using now. So yeah, and of course the what you can see in the back there, that's silver one. How do I do it? Here we go. Just there. I'm pointing at it now. That one. That's the Anand 8000 SDR, 200 watt PA in that too. But that's the SDR transceiver. And I hope to incorporate that into the system as well. I bought that from Strictly years ago. It was a lay-by payoff actually. Ross was quite happy for me to pay it off, and I've hardly used it. I mean, I have used it, but it's been never part of the HF station permanently. I've been mucking around with the station so much over the years that it gets disconnected and moved around and reconnected, and it's annoying me. So, oops. So I've got to fix that up. The dome, in a nutshell, and I mentioned that at the beginning too as well. No, the dome still sits unassembled. The deck still needs to be levelled out, and I'm trying to make up my mind about what to do in that area. I'm thinking about either using very, very thick sheets of marine ply, or perhaps compressed fibro sheeting. Really thick compressed hard fibro, cement fibro, about 15 or 18 mil thick cement sheets to resurface the deck, so that I can ultimately end up with a nice, smooth and more levelled deck. And if I can do that, and I can then tell the guys at Sidereal Trading, please come and install the dome. The deck is better than it was. So it's all going to cost more money for me, but that's the current situation, and I just don't know when that's all going to come to fruition at this stage. Anyway, that's another story, but we'll keep you guys abreast of how that transpires anyway. All right, if there's no other stations, I'll take one more listen. VK3 EKH listening on 3541 for any other further stations that might want to check in. Oh, I left you out, didn't I, Steve? Sorry about that. My apologies. You were meant to be between Robert and Ian. How I missed you there, Steve, I don't know. But all right, we'll go straight to you there, Steve. Apologies for missing you out. And we've also got Graham, VK3 Golf Lim. My pen is not working on this paper. Stick Graham down at the bottom. Have a say, Steve. Sorry for leaving you out. VK3 SPX, VK3 EKH.
VK3 EKH, this is VK3 SPX. That's all right, Clint. In fact, I wasn't around last week, but I did look at the broadcast, and I noticed you called me in last week. So you called me in when I wasn't there, which was kind of funny, considering you didn't call me in today when I was. Cute cat, by the way. Fair enough. Good broadcast. I was interested. That old astronomy book. Edward Skinner King. That was fascinating, wasn't it? I was just sort of doing a little own research here. I was just looking that up on the net. So he died in 1931, but they keep on reprinting the thing. So I'm not quite too sure who's taken up the mantle of updating it. Now, the version you read, I noticed at one stage you referred to something in 1975. So I think you had maybe the 76 version, but it was also published in 88 as well. But it's quite interesting what he had to say about the. I think at one stage in the 1975 reference was that the modern pan-chromatic film makes it much easier than the old plates. And yes, I can see you holding it up there, Clint. Thanks for that. And also I think you mentioned also that. Yes, he said, you people still use plates. Well, not anymore, I'm afraid. As you no doubt know, even the CCD sensors are pretty well gone now in favour of CMOS sensors. And I'm sure if you're having a read, you're going to have some of them pretty soon. Yes, and what else? It was good to see the US back on the moon, even if it was just a private enterprise. Funny how Trump ordered NASA to do Artemis. So he must have done something useful after all.
Yeah, funny about that.
Who would have thought? But you can, I can see he's holding up the book. 20 seconds before I mentioned it. So, yes, what else? Yes, if you look at the NASA website, you see a spectrum scope display of the signal from Artemis on 2210.58 megahertz, and it's like 13.6 centimeters. So there's a tiny little boost there. So if you've got a massive radio telescope, you could probably listen in. Yeah. All right, that's probably enough waffling from me. G'day, Graham and Ian from the Indigo Club there. All right. Can't you maybe just rip the top off the deck, Clint, and kind of re-level it with a certain amount of extra, padding where it's lower and less where it's higher and what have you? It seems like rocket science. But,
No, it's not.
I guess it's all easier said than done. Anyway, thanks, sir. Clint, back to you, EK3, VK3, SPF.
Yes, it's not rocket science, I agree. VK3 SPX, VK3 EKH. Well, look, I didn't build the deck. I got a builder fellow in, and it was built with a 10, 20 mil 4, so that water would run off. Now, I don't know whether I said to him, look, you got to build the deck as level as possible. I don't know whether I said that or not. Maybe I didn't. But he did come back after I mentioned to him that the deck needs to be level. He did eventually come back, and he did raise it at one end. Yes. So the deck is more level than it was, but because it's got several Merbu slats that make up the deck as such, those Merbu slats, if you put a 2 meter long spirit level across it, if you run the spirit level east-west direction, it's basically level. The spirit bubble in the level is dead center, so it's flat that way, and that's with the spirit level running longitudinally with the Merbu slats. But turn the spirit level around and run it so it's north-south. The spirit level runs across the slats laterally. I guess is one way of putting it. Anyway, but you can still see that the bubble in the spirit level is not quite center. And if you lift the spirit level up enough to make the bubble dead center, there still is, a significant gap going on here. So, but the other issue is the slats themselves, the Merbu slats or timber pieces, they're not exactly flat. There's a little bit of arcing going on. Nothing that's too much of a concern, but if you're using the deck for anything else. But this dome, the way it's engineered and the way it's got to be placed on the surface, it needs to have a really smooth, and it's got to be flat and level. So you're quite right. I was thinking about removing all the Merbu slats, and there was a suggestion about getting an aluminium frame built. There's a company called ClickDeck, and they make decking out of aluminium extrusion pieces, extruded pieces, and they make it to size and all that sort of stuff. And but it's a bit expensive, and I didn't really want to go down that road because I've got this deck. It's done. It's completed more or less. It just needs a little bit of fixing up, and I thought that why not just resurface the deck with some marine ply. I was originally thinking 18 millimeter thick marine ply, and getting about 3 or 4 sheets of 18 mil marine ply, and cutting it to shape and bolting it down, and that way the whole surface of the deck is then flattened out and hopefully leveled at the same time. And some people I've spoken to about that say, don't use marine ply because that'll expand and contract under temperature and rain and weather and all this sort of thing. It'll eventually go funny. Probably the best material to use is compressed cement sheeting, and get some really thick cement sheetings, 15 mil thick fibro sheet, which between the the marine grade ply and the cement sheet, the cost difference isn't all that much really, but still cheaper than going down and organising aluminium to be cut from click deck. So that's where it's just sitting at the moment. It's a stalemate, and I'm just trying to work out which way to go with that. But something has to be done soon, because I'm so sick and tired of coming home from work, and as I drive down the driveway here, I see this perfectly good dome just sitting there wasting away, and nothing happening. So it's really quite annoying. But we're getting there. Patience is a virtue, and we're slowly but surely getting there. Graham, VK3GL. I guess you'll be probably at work at the moment. VK3GL, VK3EKH.
VK3EKH for the group. VK3GL, good evening to everyone who's checked in this evening. All good signals generally all round, and hopefully it seems like it's in pretty reasonable shape and behaving itself this evening there, Clint. You've been a good signal the whole time. Good 25, 30 over 9 the entire time tonight, so all good from that point of view. Yes, I'm glad that you did something with the talking about the landing on the moon this evening. I thought that you probably would, and it was good that you did, and I enjoyed watching the article on all of that and hearing you talk about it all as well. I was certainly aware of the landing going on from the news media. I wasn't aware of the launch, so however, it was noted it was about 5 days ago or something like that. So that's all good, and I hope that they get some good results out of this trip up there to the moon, with whatever experimentation that goes on. I guess we'll hear about all of that too, and whether it's been successful or not. I think they indicated that there were some issues with landing up there. They weren't sure whether the thing had landed properly, so I think there was a bit of celebration going on. I can see you've brought the video back up online. So thanks very much for that, Clint. All good stuff. In relation to your deck, and I know that you've probably had a number of suggestions for it, but I was wondering, I'm not sure whether or not your deck needs, I know that it needs to be level, I get all of that, but the dome itself is round, and I'm assuming that it mounts to the decking. It's on there as a round object, so in other words, there's no floor in the dome itself. I assume it's just a round ring, if you like. I wonder whether or not a large rubber thick gasket or something like that around the bottom of it would be enough to level it up. Or if you're looking to put something over the top of the existing Murbu, I know it's been suggested about perhaps an aluminium plate or something, but I reckon that'd be pretty expensive. It'd be more expensive than a steel plate, but you could probably put a steel plate on there. Or the other option would be perhaps that, I think there's interlocking flooring, which is like a chipboard flooring that they use in housing and construction. And if you put that on there and sealed it, in other words, lacquered it a few times and sealed it, I think that would provide you with plenty of longevity. So, and it that way may actually be a little cheaper than going down the path of trying to get something else done. Anyway, you may or may not have considered to do something along those lines. for the day. So if any of the ideas, there's a few others that are on the callback tonight that are going. I'll be there with a couple of tables of stuff and all my usual antenna bits and bobs and all the different connectors and stuff, adapters and so on and so forth, squid poles, blah, blah, blah. Alright, I might have a bit of a chat to you after the callback anyway, Clint, see what you've been up to for the week. VK3, VK8 and the group, VK3GL, yep.
Yeah, okay, Graham. VK3GL, VK3 EKH returning. And, yeah, not a problem. I didn't know there was... I put the WI broadcast on every Sunday, and I... excuse me, I didn't know that there was a White Elephant thing happening, Hamfest thing this weekend. Oh, excuse me, losing the voice already. Yes, all right. Look, the dome. Yeah, I don't know whether you've seen it. I don't think you've. The last time you paid a visit here, whether you came down this far and actually saw the thing, but I've got. I've sent you. I'm sure I've sent you images of it, but it's all fiberglass. It rotates at the ground level. Most astronomical domes generally sit on a support structure, and the dome rotates generally at head level above you. But the design here is that it rotates at the base. So the bearings that the dome rotates on is critical to be in perfect level. Every bearing, every wheel that the dome sits on has to be all in the same plane, as in level. So there's minimal resistance that this dome is facing, and that's the crucial thing. So any imperfections in the floor that the dome sits on transfers through to those bearings, apparently. And the spec that I've been told is plus or minus 3 millimeters in variation of that rotating track. So I actually sent an email to Sidereal Training earlier this week to say, look, I'll go ahead and build the dome myself. I'll fix this deck up, and I'll go ahead and construct the dome. So don't you guys worry about it. And it saves me money in the process. But I've had a rethink, and I've decided to go back to the original idea and let these guys do it, because they have done this assembly a few times now. They know the shortcuts. Well, not so much the shortcuts, but they know how to assemble it in a proper order. And where it would probably take me a few weekends to get around to doing it, well, not so much getting around, but doing it itself, these guys would have the dome basically assembled in half a day. And the next day they come back to do the electrical wiring, which is actually a little bit on the complexy side too. So anyway, all I've got to do is flatten out the deck. And like I've said, I was thinking of putting down some marine ply or some compressed fibro sheeting, thick stuff. So it gets rid of any undulation in the surface. So I'm just trying to get a heads up on that one, and we'll see how we go. All right, thanks, Graham. It's 11:49, so I can hang around for a little bit after, but otherwise it's I'm already feeling a bit tired as usual for the Friday night thing. Kim VK5 FUSC is telling me I've got a beautiful beast. He's saying that the cat makes the Pro 3 look small. Yeah, from this angle, it sure does. I might be able to get my USB camera, and if I bring the USB camera around, you'll be able to see how much this cat is occupying the top of the radio. Okay, there it is. So she's enjoying the warmth coming from that radio. As you can imagine, that's pretty warm. Kiska, Kiska, you're on TV, Kiss. Kiss, Kiss. Kiss, Kiss, you're on TV. Huh? Blah, 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 blah. Kiska. Blah, 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 blah. Kiska. So that's all she knows is Kiska. Oh, dear. Kiss. Kiss, 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 kiss. Look at the camera. Yes, look at the camera. Be a good puss. Oh, she doesn't want to. Oh, dear. All right. Sorry about the camera movement. Back to the other one. There we go. Oh, you can see that I'm sitting in front of the open window here, so she's stood up because she's heard a noise out in the kitchen. So isn't she a magnificent cat? This one, really beautiful colours. Gorgeous puss, aren't you, Kiss? Such a gorgeous puss. It's because she's heard a noise in the kitchen. She's just focused on it all. So this makes it look like a really tall cat. My apologies for carrying on here with my cat, but there it is. For those watching YouTube, you can see what's going on right now. Alright, enough of that. And you can see with all the mess in the background, I've still got to try and fix up as well. It's all over the place. Oh dear. Anyway, alright, enough of that. Alright, if there's no other stations, I shall conclude the transmissions for tonight, and we'll see you all next week. Oh dear. And that LP700 is to die for. A great cat and equipment. Yeah, no, thanks, Kim. Yeah, it is. I'll bring it up on camera. The LP700 is a nice bit of kit. It's just turning it on. It'll boot up. It's got a little Raspberry Pi thing in it, I believe. There it goes, and that's the screen, and you've got all those buttons at the bottom there. It'll take, it's got 4 inputs for 4 different couplers, so you can use the same power monitoring device for 4 different radios. So that's something I find really interesting and unique about that. But I thought I better get something as good as this for use of the Telefunken transmitter, which is just over there in the back here. That device there needs to be monitored very carefully. So that's the reason why I got the LP700, was for that transmitter. So there it is, a little bit of show and tell going on here. Alright, this is VK3 EKH. I'll close the station down and be sitting on the side until you're ready to carry on for a bit there, Grey. VK3GL, VK3 EKH, closing down.
Are you there, Clint? VK3 BSF?
Yep, sure am.
Your deck, you chose the wrong materials, mate. That bamboo plank will continue to warp with the weather. I think you'll have a lot of... you picked the wrong material. I believe. My grandson's a whiz with decks, and I was just talking to him about it, and I think he said for absolute plus minus 3 millimetres, maybe deck it'll shift up and down at least a millimetre, maybe more, depending on the weather, and over time it will tend to warp. You know, the decks do tend to warp. You don't notice it, of course, normally. Bad luck. Okay, yeah, the second operator there, he's doing all right, isn't he? He's got his wits about him. He knows he's the boss. But that's all the comments I got there, Clint. Don't know if I'm out of line, but I think you picked that wrong, but she's real. 3KH, 3BSF. PK3SDX.
Yeah, no worries, Steve. Got you there. I'll go back to my call sign now, CSJ. In fact, I'll get rid of the little ASV references on the screen there, and pop that one away, and bring up my call sign. There it is. It'll do. Although I'm on YouTube, so it doesn't really matter. It's not as if I'm going through the Melbourne TV repeater. I'm not, but the stream is still hanging in there. I'm very impressed because I've just knocked up the power a little bit more. I really wanted to test this system. It's really the first chance I've had of trying trying it out with all the earthing that I've done, and the modem is hanging in very, very well. So it looks like I might have fixed the problem. But as soon as I tidy it all up, all this earth wire that's lingering around in the back of the benches here, it'll fail and start to give me problems. I'm looking out the window. That the view at the moment is the view out of my shack window to the front part of the property. You can't see too much because of the reflection on the window here, because of the shack behind me. But the security light has come on, and I'm not sure what's turned it on. It might have been possums. We usually get possums wandering around here, and it's probably possums or rabbits. We've got some wild rabbits that like to munch the grass. They'll set the security light off as well. But yeah, basically, I think you're right. I'm not disputing what. Oh, the light's just gone off. I'm not disputing what you're saying, Peter. It's I had two options to go with: a concrete pad or a timber deck, and I wanted to try and get a quote for concrete to how much that was going to cost, and it was just going to be a little bit more tricky to get concrete poured in this back corner of the property, and we're not too far from the creek. The creek is about 25 feet away, and if it floods, the flooding can come right up to on the property, and I've seen it about a metre away from the deck, the water level. So there's a good possibility that the land in that area would get moist and move, and there's every possibility that the concrete pad might be affected by that. Plus, the other thing about concrete pads is that they retain the heat. So on a nice hot sunny day, the heat as the night cools down, the concrete pad continues to be warm, and its thermal mass becomes a bit of an issue. So not totally a good idea. And if you speak to sidereal trading people who sell the domes and install it for you, they recommend that a timber deck be the best option to build the dome. Now, when they say that, they also indicate that it's probably a good idea to go with the Crowd Click Deck, because Click Deck make decks out of aluminium, and they supply all the necessary bits that support the deck off the ground, and you can adjust it it's all adjustable, so you can make it as flat and absolutely spot on. And they use the plastic look-alike timber slats, which are totally flat and have 20 years of life and don't warp in the sun, although they do retain heat. They get pretty hot when the sun's on them. Anyway, I figured that, okay, I'll go with the timber deck and be done with it, being perhaps a cheaper option. But as it's turned out, the whole process has cost me quite a bit. And at the end of the day, I really should have gone with the aluminium deck plan. All I would have had to have done is dug 369, 9 odd holes in the ground, poured concrete into them, developed a foundation, flattened the concrete off, and used those concrete foundations to build the aluminium deck on. And I probably would have been 3,000, maybe $3,500 to get that done. But this timber deck was far more. Well, now there is a reason for that, because firstly I had when the deck was being made, there were 3 guys here working on doing all this, and so I was paying for 3 guys, and there was a 60-metre trench that was dug, so by the same group. So I can understand where the expense went into, and I kind of accept that. But it's just it's just unfortunate that the timber deck isn't all that flat. So really the best thing for me to do now is either I can remove the Merbau timber and put something down that's flat, or keep the Merbau there as a base and put marine ply or compressed fibro on top. So it's a firm base for that to sit on. The only question is whether I'd be able to get it level. I might be able to smooth out all the undulations caused by the Merbau, but if I put sheets down on it, it'll still follow the slight drop or fall that the deck's still got. So I would somehow have to fix that in the process as well. So it's either that, I do that, or I remove the whole top part, get rid of the Merbau, and go down the road of getting click deck, organise click deck to make the aluminium frame up. They ship it out here, and then just reassemble it on the existing deck, and then adjust it so that it's then flat and level. I don't know. Anyway, I'll pop it across to Steve. VK3SPX, VK3CSJ.
VK3CSJ, VK3SPX. I guess you know where to start, Cliff. Look, I own my own deck actually. It's basically held up by concrete stumps, and there's pieces of large timber going one way, and then on top of that there's pieces of large timber going the other way. And the top of it is that composite, it's like Merbau thing, but it's composite plastic thing. So it doesn't get affected, it's completely waterproof, basically, it's water resistant. So it doesn't get affected by the rain or anything. It does get hot when the sun shines on it, but then there's not that much of it, so it loses that heat pretty damn quick by the time you get around to images at night. That's not a problem. I certainly agree about the concrete, Although I do actually have concrete that holds my pier up in the middle. I don't know if you've done this, Cliff, but, in order for the pier to be mechanically isolated from the whole platform, there's basically the hole in the platform, and the pier goes through the hole in the platform, and the pier is set in about 3/4 of a cubic metre of concrete in the ground. 3/4 of a cubic metre of concrete aren't going anywhere, basically, and it's just steel pier is bolted to that. So I'm not sure if you've done that, but look, I can't. It's hard to be. It's easy to be wise after the event, isn't it? But it seems like it would be possible to put another layer on top of what you've already got. Adjusting, I think you're right, in one direction, not the other. So if you might have a series of wooden beams from one side to the other, just in graduated width, basically, and then you could get like that bunny stuff you can buy, this wooden stuff. It's about 18 mil thick. It's designed for outdoor use. It's bloody tough, it's not gonna, follow undulations of anything, I wouldn't think. Anyway, look, I know it's easy to suggest things, and sometimes it's harder in practice. And you're certainly welcome to come here if you're up this way and tell us what I've done, by the way, Clinton. Maybe I'll come and visit you one day. Anyway, I know you want to talk to Graham, so I'll get off now and let you get to bed. I probably should be moving that direction myself. VK3 CSJ, VK3
Yeah, no worries, Steve. VK3SPX, VK3CSJ. Yes, I agree with all your comments there, and I would have been happy to have gone down the concrete pad way, because in my mind, it would have been levelled from the moment the concrete was poured. It doesn't have to be a round pad. I was thinking of a circular pad, but to try and create circular form is more complex and trickier. So it could have been a square pad. I could have easily have just created some square form and some square forming and put the Rio in. Although, again, I'm thinking of that. The only hardest part about a concrete pad is creating a concrete pillar in the middle that's isolated from your pad, because technically that's what you would have to do. You'd have to put your concrete pillar in more or less first and get that concrete set, and then put timber or foam or something that separates the pouring of the pad away from your pillar. So your pillar, as you know what I'm talking about. So the pillar is isolated from the concrete pad. Very tricky little arrangement to do if you want to do that, or otherwise just put a concrete down. A whole lot of concrete, big block of concrete, and then put your pier, telescope pier, bolted straight to that concrete. At the end of the day, that should be all right too, because if your concrete pad is a solid mass of concrete, there should be very little vibration that'll transfer through to your pier, to your telescope. But you still have to be careful with what you're doing with your movement. If you're imaging and you're out there at the observatory at the same time, you want to be obviously very careful about getting vibrations transferred through. But look, I on one hand I would have liked to have gone down the concrete pad area, but again I thought no, getting a timber deck made was going to be I thought, if anything, was going to be the cheaper way out of it. Like the concrete pillar has been poured, and so there is a lump of concrete down there, and it sits. The concrete section that the pier is going to be mounted on sits about so high above the deck. So it's all ready to go. The deck just needs to be flatter. So I still think that the cheapest option I have right now is to get some thick 18mm thick marine ply, or some 18mm thick compressed fibro cement sheet. And apparently the fibro cement sheet, you don't butt it up. I was thinking that it would butt up, but you don't. It's the idea is that you put your sheets down and you keep a gap between them, and then you put down. Then you pour some special poly filler between the gap. So so that's it's the deck is 3.6 by 3.6. I mean, it's not a big deck, So, so it shouldn't present me any bloody problems at all. So it's just a matter of tackling it. So, but it's still going to cost me a little bit more money, and at the moment, I just don't have the funds. Right now, I just don't have the money to even get the material needed to resurface the deck. So that's why things are just taking their time at the moment. Unfortunately, I need a win in Tatslotto, seriously. Anyway, all right. Peter, did you want to make any further comments? VK3BSF, BSF, that's right, VK3CSJ.
No, except my grandson, he's a whiz with decks. He can have a look, but I don't think he'll be able to really solve the Murphy problem. I'm surprised that he hasn't got some sort of self-leveling jacks or screws or things on it, rather than relying on a perfectly flat level base. And as you know, keeping everything flat level for years and years is a bit of a problem. Anything can sort of happen. You might get a little bit of ground shaking, or we've had earthquakes in Melbourne before. So I'm surprised it didn't have some self-leveling jacks there on it. Go ahead.
No, the deck is all timber. It's built onto onto wooden stumps in concrete, and it's funny how he's built the deck, because I don't think he was terribly experienced at building decks, although he has built decks before at his own home, I believe. This bloke, but it's the concrete pillar that the telescope will be mounted on, and hence the dome will center around, is slightly off center to the rest of the deck. So I really don't know how that's happened, why that's happened when he built the deck, but he basically put the stumps in the ground, concreted them up, got them all square, and then got the timber to build the framework. But even while he was doing all that, he hadn't quite dug the hole in the ground for the concrete pier to be poured. And so before he got the Merbu and created the flooring, in fact, he had already started putting the Merbu on the deck, but still left room enough to be able to work in the center of the deck to pour the concrete, create some formwork, and pour the concrete for the concrete pillar. And then once that was done, he then finished off the rest of the decking around it. But for some reason, the concrete pier is not centered in the actual deck itself, and I just don't know why that's gone like that. But the dome, the rotating ring section of the dome is about 2.9 meters in diameter, so that will sit dead center of the pier. There's plenty of room for the dome to actually sit. It's not as if the diameter of the dome will be offside or offset too far on one side. There'll be still plenty of decking for this dome to actually sit on and do its thing. So that it's not too critical. The way the deck is at the moment, it's not critical. But it is all timber. There's no adjustment that can be done other than removing the bugle screws that are used to screw it all together and jacking it up a little further to level that out. And he's already done that, and he's put some extra material to get it up higher. So I probably just need to come down and do it myself. As I said to the guys at Sidereal Trading, that I'll remove the Merbu. I said, look, I'll remove the Merbu to expose the deck underneath. They were interested to know where the stumps were. So I've got plenty of photographs taken of the deck as it was being built, but I don't have dimensions. So what I can do is remove the Merbu, because when one thinks of a wooden timber deck, you think Merbau will be used as the flooring, and that's why that's it. It's a traditional timber deck with Merbau, and I thought, what? That's it. But I was hoping that the dome would be put on this deck real early in the piece, while the Merbau was still fresh and new. I coated the Merbau with three coats of stain, all weather stain. So it's actually coated with three coats of stain, which to look at it now looks a little bit washed because of the rain that we've had. But the only other issue with the slats, the Merbau slats, is that its ventilation gets inside the dome. Not a big deal. That's probably a good thing, actually. But it also means that spiders and maybe ants will get in through the slats. The suggested idea was to get some garden mesh, some mesh, green mesh stuff. What do they call that? Garden mesh. Anyway, put that down first on the frame and then put the Merbau down on top of that. Because a lot of people who build timber decks for observatories will do that. They'll put mesh down first and then put the Merbau on top of that. And that would work, to stop spiders from getting inside the dome. And I said that to this guy. I said, look, put some mesh down, some shade cloth. That's it, shade cloth. Put some shade cloth down and then put the Merbau on front of it. But he went ahead and put the Merbau on first. He actually did have some shade cloth that he was planning on using, but for some reason he put the Merbau down first. And what he said to me that he was going to do was get underneath the decking. Once the dome has been put on and the dome is assembled and working, he was going to come back and come in underneath the deck and put the shade cloth, staple the shade cloth to the underneath of the deck where the dome sits, so that the whole deck isn't covered with the shade cloth, but only where the dome is. So that still could happen, but if I elect to put solid sheets down, then I don't have to worry about shade cloth at that stage. So it's gonna happen. I'm gonna bite the bullet. I will bite the bullet, and I will get down there with a screwdriver, electric screwdriver, and I'll remove all the Merbau. It's unfortunate, but that's probably the way it's going to go, and then get this deck fixed up and do it myself. So, but I need the materials. The last thing I want to do is remove all the Merbau, and the deck just sits there, open, exposed frame, for a few more weeks before I can afford to get some sheeting, plyboard, or some cement sheeting or something or other. I don't know. Anyway, we're getting there, and the more I talk about it, the more it fuels my mind that I'm going to do it. I won't organise a builder to come in, because I just got to have to charge. They will want to be paid for it. So I can't afford to pay for somebody else now to fix this. So I have to do it myself. Oh dear. Anyway, I'm not sure who to put it to. Steve, maybe you want to say some more? VK3SPX, VK3CSJ?
VK3CSJ, VK3SPX. Yeah, just listening to a bit of that, Clint. I won't keep you much longer. So if you've ripped the Merbau off, is it possible to adjust the frame that's already there, or lay another frame across it? I'm just trying to visualise how it might work, but it must have bits of wood going in both directions. So you've only got one direction where you've got to just lift at one end, and so you would lay some large pieces of timber in one direction, but slightly lifted at one end, and then you could put the Merbau back or put some other sheeting on top. Is that impractical? Do you think, Clint, VK3CSJ, VK3SPX?
No, look, I think that's what's going to have to be done. I look when I said to the builder bloke, look, the deck needs to be raised. He built it. He knew how he put it together. So I didn't have to pay for that. He knew that was just something that I asked him to do because the deck wasn't flat. So he said, no, I'll fix it. I'll come in and jack it up. So that's what he did. He removed a number of bugle screws, and then he used. I'm not sure exactly how he determined how to achieve the level, but he once he managed to jack it up to the appropriate point, he then just put the bugle screws back in. I would need to remove the Merbu to see how the frame is put together. So the funny thing is, if you look at this deck by eye, you can see that it's not square. At first glance, you don't pick it up, but if you run your eye along the edge and just generally look at it, there seems to be a very unsquare look about it. So that's what I would have to do. I would have to remove the Merbu so that I can expose the frame, and then sit back and think, well, what can I do now to get this sorted out? And that's where I'm going to have to go to work out what next to do, whether to approach ClickDeck and get a completely aluminium frame made up that can be placed on top of the existing timber deck, and that thereby achieving a complete flat surface, because by virtue of the aluminium decking, and then you somehow mounting that or attaching it to the existing timber deck. That part I don't know how I'd go about doing that, but it's the thing is, if I approach ClickDeck, it's going to be $2,500 to get all that aluminium cut to size, to shape, with all the necessary bolts and screws and fittings to put it all together. And I would rather just remove the Merbu, or perhaps keep the Merbu there, because as it is right now, it's a perfectly good deck to walk on. It's firm underfoot. It doesn't move. As you walk around, nothing moves. It's actually a solid feeling deck under your feet. So all it just needs is some flat sheeting placed down to smooth it out. And in the process of doing that, you just make sure that it's level at the same time. So I really do think that's the way out of this. And if I can do that without paying too much more money, then once it's done, I can go back to Sidereal Trading and say, guys, we've done it. We've got a flat deck. It's smooth. Come and assemble the dome, please. Let's get this over and done with. So hopefully that's the way it'll go. I don't know. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, look, that sounds fine. Clearly, I think that's the way to go. Once you take the top off, you better see how it works. Maybe the guy had the right idea, but just didn't have the precision necessary to pull it off. I don't know, maybe not sufficient care, or maybe it was all too difficult for him. So, yeah, if you pull the top off and have a look, but I think the aluminium, that sounds really expensive. Anyway, Clint, I'm going to go QRT now, so thanks very much for the broadcast and interesting chat. BK3CSJ, BK3SPX, going clear.
Yeah, cheers, Steve. Take care, mate. Have a nice weekend. We'll catch up with you most likely next Friday. And Pete, if you're still listening, thanks for the words as well. It's all food for thought, and it's giving me a small amount of impetus to get something done. VK3BSF, VK3CSJ, if you're still there.
I'm still here and listening to all your troubles and woes. Yes, your solution with the aluminium decking seems to be the one. Yeah, some of that gear you got. See if you can rustle up 2 grand. Splash the cash, I say, Clint. Go ahead.
Well, I honestly thought about that. This radio here, transceiver, the FT-DX 9000, I could easily sell that for $6,000, because that comes with the dual speakers here. That's the appropriate speaker cabinet for this radio, and then I've got the MD 200 microphone. This little device, you can't really see it. That beautiful microphone. I just love this sort of style microphone, but that suits the 9000D perfectly. So yeah, I could get $6,000 for that probably, because 9000Ds are a sought after wireless. If the prospective person interested in such a wireless knows exactly what he's getting. So I could do that. I could. And I have thought about it. I think Graham, VK3GL, waiting on the side there, is convinced me not to do it. So yeah, that's why it's still sitting here. I thought this is just a beautiful wireless. So, and then of course there's this SDR behind me here, an AN 8000. Now that cost me $6,000 as well, and there's every possibility that I could sell this for $6,000. But I don't want to get rid of the SDR because I've got the world of the analog side of the radio with all the knobs and buttons and switches and the tactile feel of a radio, whereas this one here is all through software, as you can appreciate. And because this is all software controlled, you can do a lot of things. So a lot of good things, a lot of interesting things. So I don't want to get rid of that because I still want to experiment with the SDR, and so I want to hold on to these two. I don't really have much else to get rid of. I've got a lot of Collins equipment, a complete Collins station, S-line, which is waiting for a bench to be built for that to sit on. That'll all happen. All that mess behind me that you see will go, including that bookcase that's over here, all gone, and there'll be an operating bench all the way down to the back wall. And the idea is that my Collins station will line all that bench space. And then the only other equipment that I've got is a complete Yaesu station 101 lineup. The original 101B. I've got 3 of those, and all the bits and pieces that came from all that time period. So if you align or line up all this Yaesu station that I've got, it takes up 12 feet of bench space. In fact, this bench that I'm sitting at here right now, originally I had the 101 series sitting on this, and it occupied the whole bench. It looked very, very impressive. In fact, you can see a part of that on my QRZ page. If you go to qrz.com and type in VK3CSJ, one of the many pictures I've got there, you'll see the Yaesu station kind of tentatively set up at the time, just to get it out of the way while I was moving in upstairs. But you can't get much with that. If I was to sell the Yaesu station, I wouldn't be able to get too much. I'd probably get enough money to be able to get the material for resurfacing the deck. And certainly if I was to sell the 9000 here or the Anan, I'd have enough money to get this deck sorted out finally, get that all done. So it is a serious consideration, but we'll see if there's any other way of going around doing this, even if it means taking a little bit more time to get there and getting the materials. So we shall see. All right. Yeah, VK3 BSF, VK3 CSJ.
Yes, okay. Well, here's some advice. You're never going to use all that gear, you're just going to look at it. The Collins S line, that'll probably get you your money. All that FT101 stuff, yeah. I mean, FT101s are selling for about $350. The linear is $700. You say, you wouldn't get $2,000 for it, mate. Sorry about that. But you're hopeful of getting, what about 6K for your radio when the FT101MP sells for that price? It's a 200 watt SDR rig. Beautiful radio. It'll outclass your, what is it, 5,000 by miles. You probably get about $4,000 for that, 3 maybe, but I'd sell that one first, mate, and you're in business.
What, sell the 9,000 here, this one here?
You can get $4,000 for that, easy.
Oh, I'd say so.